Can we have a roll call?
Mrs. Jordan, Ms. Wood, Mr. Vosell, Mr. Hodge.
Here.
Mr. Wood.
Here.
Mr. Cantner.
Here.
Mrs. Derndak.
Here. Approval of the minutes. Did you guys get those?
I just downloaded them off his website. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't even.
They were sent May 19th, I think it was, wasn't it, Sheriff?
Oh, that could have been when my email was all screwed up. So sorry about that. All right, any comments or additions, deletions to the minutes?
Looked good to me.
Looked good to me. I move this.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Public comment to our vast public that's here.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming. All right, new business. Basically, this is just about the update on the airport master plan. I know a couple of you went to the public meeting and things like that, but this is just an update on that, and then we'll go from there. Eric, I think.
Yes, ma'am, and good morning, everybody. I will just kind of give you a little presentation here to bring everybody up to speed. We have been talking about the master plan now since November. Actually, the data was started collected in November 2013, and we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of data collection, and pretty much at this point, all the data collection is complete. So that's the good news. We're still always taking input, of course, including today. We did have several opportunities to meet with airport tenants, discuss things with the airport staff. We've had the airport advisory panel, as you all know, and Barb is a member of that panel. So we've got input from all of that. We had a survey. We went out, a Survey Monkey type of survey. We even offered a free Kindle for people, and that worked. We had quite a few responses, over 200 responses from that. We had an open house at the River House. That was the latest on April 30th of this year. That went very well. We had several boards set up, and we had task areas, and we talked about the different areas of the airport and what we're proposing for the future. We had about 50 people show up for that, and they actually were allowed or were asked to provide comments in a written format with comment cards, and they did. All those comments have now been gathered, and over the next few months, maybe 2 months, we're going to finalize all that and submit our final draft to the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, for their review and comment. Typically, they will mostly review and comment on the airport layout plan, the ALP, which is just the graphic representation of our proposed development for the airport. So that'll be the main focus for the FAA. So that's all coming. We'll also be working on an air service analysis. We did a lot of that already, land uses that we propose. And I think we talked pretty extensively to this board on February 26th, so I'm not saying anything new. You all have an update from that. The sustainability business plan is underway right now, where we're working on how we can retain our self-sufficiency at the airport for the 20-year period of the master plan and beyond, and do that with being environmentally conscious. We actually will be starting the actual environmental review based on our proposed development plan now. That starts over the next couple months. And, we have some members of the public that have been watching and been interested in that, so we'll make sure that is handled properly also. As you know, on our website, verobeachairport.org, there is a place where you can go and you can comment and submit comments that way through the website as well, as always. Or just call the airport office. So all that is happening. As I mentioned, we did brief all this to the City Council on May 19th of this month, and we received a consensus to proceed, as we have been and follow the same direction. They didn't have any major concerns. The City Council had a couple questions on air service, and we answered those. And what we'd like to do now is I'm going to quickly go through this briefing as quickly as I need to. And if I'm going too slow, please let me know. But in front of you, you'll see similar to the presentation, pretty much the same thing that we sent out to you in your package. But we're just updated it just a little bit just for the Airport Commission. But in general, we're going to go over these 6 items. And I've already talked about the status update and some of the other data here. We'll spend a little bit more time on the true market study from the airline if we need to, and maybe talk about what we're proposing for airline service. And we'll have a discussion. I'd like to really encourage, good discussion, some direction to airport staff. If there's anything in here that you think we could do a little bit different, now would be the time to bring that up. Just real briefly, what an airport master plan is. I think everybody knows that. Those three items on the bottom are what we're looking for. Financial responsibility. We want to make sure that we cover the costs that we're proposing through our own revenue stream plus federal and state grants. Reduce environmental impacts. We already have made some initiatives in that way with LED lighting, that kind of a thing. We're even talking about potential solar panels in the midfield as an idea to pursue. And then, of course, continue our community relations efforts. And economic development is going to be key and be shown through the business plan. So here's where we are. I briefly went over this already, but those those 5 green squares have what's been completed. So you can see where we are pretty much. And as I mentioned, we're just starting the environmental considerations now based on our preferred development concepts that we have already reviewed and been approved through several levels, including the City Council. There's the vision statement for the airport, as we have talked about at several meetings already. And I just want to review it and make sure you see that. We asked them to highlight the key words there: vibrant, forward-looking, aeronautical needs need to be met. We want to contribute and be the economic engine for the community. And historic and natural heritage is always something that's key to the Vero Beach area. And we want to make sure that we're including that in our planning. Here's the forecast. These have been approved by the FAA already and by City Council. And so what we see here is through the 20-year period, and we use 2013 data, so that's why we go to 2033 here, and then we've extrapolated it out to the 2035 timeframe of the master plan. But you can see we're not proposing a huge increase, about 1.5% average annual growth rate in operations, out to about 250,000 by the end of the period. We've already hit aircraft operations at that number in the past. So what we're saying is, all right, we've been hit a couple times. Recessions in the 90s, another great recession in the beginning of the 21st century. And now we're rebounding, and we hope to get back to where we already were. That pretty much says that our facilities are in good shape. The based aircraft, we're looking for an increase there to 313. Still not huge. Fort Lauderdale Executive is 600, 700 based aircraft. We're looking at 313 by the end of a 20-year period. That's about a 2% per year growth rate. This corresponds with national trends as well, with a little bit better than national because it's Florida. We've got great weather, and we see a little bit more general aviation activity. And then what this graph shows is what our facilities will need to change in that 20-year period in order to meet those goals. And you can see the only place we have a deficit is pretty much in the hangars and apron area. Everything else is in pretty good shape. That's why it's a check mark. That's obvious because if you have more airplanes, you're going to probably need more hangars. Who will supply those hangars? That will depend on whether we have the initiative by our existing FBOs or other developers, or whether the city would have to build T-hangars, for example, as we have in the past. You can see a couple of bullets in the bottom I put in bold. That could change some of those check marks. If we have airline service, if something like that happens, we might take a look at changing our ARF index, and we might want to look at what we would do with our terminal facilities. That's the footnote 3 there. So, but if no airline service is achieved, then the only deficit we would have would be in some hangars that we would need. This is a general representation of the airport and showing the different core areas that we have been talking about and how we're going to develop the airport. If you can start down at Core 1 and go around to the, counterclockwise, you can see the different areas there that are represented. Pretty much Core 1 is going to be where we're going to put most emphasis, as we have in the past. It's the best access, it has all the infrastructure in place, and there's still vacant land with infrastructure available for lease. So that's where our focus would generally be. and then would go around to the different areas. Core 2 is pretty much built out. That's aviation. Midfield, there's some potential there for interior development, some new hangars down the road. But because of the line of sight issue from the tower, we're limited somewhat to any kind of height restrictions. So we might end up, that could be a location for a solar field is a thought, and we will be investigating that possibility. Core 4, 5, and 6 are all the areas that have very little infrastructure, if any. And also, that's where about 30 to 32 water wells are located in that vicinity. So there's some reason to limit development there, both because of the water and sewer, the water treatment facilities, as well as there are some indications that there may be some environmentally sensitive species that need to be considered too. And we're taking a look at that with our habitat conservation plan, which has been required by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and our wildlife hazard management plan, which is required by the FAA. So we're taking a look at that with 2 other plans, and that will correspond with that data will hopefully be included as best as we can into the master plan, although the timing is a little bit different. But in any case, those 3 cores will have to be, all that will need to be considered. And then we get down to core 7, which is pretty much available. There's just a couple parcels available for lease. And then core 8, which is not labeled, but in the lower section, the center, that's the mobile home park. And I don't know if should we stop here for any questions, or you want me to just go ahead and continue through this?
I'd like to, we've had so many presentations for a number of...
Make sure your mic is on there, Skip.
We've had so many presentations to a number of different agencies, including the City Council. I'd like to see a summary of the responses of the presentations, of what the feedback are we getting from the community as well as from the City Council. Was it the Master Plan Committee? What do you call it?
Yeah,
the AMP that you all have?
Right.
I'd like to see some responses. I mean, we're doing an awful lot of work. You're doing all the work, but we're not. From an airport commission, I'd like to see the results of some of those responses.
Yes. Talk about seeing the actual comments. They're available. We do have that. We took all those comments. We've discussed that at the airport advisory panel, and those comments have been placed into this graphic format and the other slides that are coming, and
Okay.
they're actually going to be in the master plan. But as far as if you want to see the actual comments, we have the raw data that's available. I would just need to get that from the consultant and have that presented. I'll put a note.
Because if we're to advise you, I'd like to see what we've done, what we've accomplished so far. Make sense?
Yeah, I know you guys, a lot of data was collected, like at the public meeting and things like that. So I know they've incorporated it, but like Eric said, you could probably get the actual raw data if you want, because it's all public record. So any of the comments people made, because there were sheets that were passed out,
Right.
And everything. So I think they've tried to incorporate this
Right.
to kind of condense it, but that is all available.
And a lot of it will be showing up when we do the sustainable business plan, because really, when people are talking about in the different core areas what they'd like to see there, whether it be retail or a boutique facility or antique mall or a hotel or whatever, all those comments have come into play for our strategic business plan. And that will be shown in the form of goals. We'll have goals set out. We'll have measurable and hopefully financially feasible tasks and actions that will follow from those goals. All have been distilled down from the multiple comments. Obviously, we can't do everything from every comment we ever got. We've distilled it down to what we think is pretty much financially feasible and meets the character and what the Airport Commission, the advisory panel, have been directing us to do. So, but raw comments and all that's all out there. It's just that it's a lot of it. I just get it from Recondo and see what we can present. Maybe we'll just give them a call and come over, Skip. We can take a look at it sometime.
Okay. Because some of the anecdotal comments that I'm getting is that there's a number of influential people here in town that do not want air service. And we need to balance that, because we've got one of the most beautiful communities that you could ever want.
Yeah, I understand.
And we don't want to destroy that with commercialism and we certainly don't want any lawsuits if somebody's going to fight us for doing
Yeah.
what we think we should be doing.
Gotcha.
So just wanted to get those.
Sure.
You've got the presentations, but I haven't seen the comments.
The actual comments, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got them.
Okay.
I'd be curious. Well, we haven't gotten to the air service yet, but what have you heard about why people wouldn't want airline service here?
They don't want to destroy the laid-back
Okay.
community that they have. In other words, I'm here, I'm going to pull the gangway up. You know what I'm talking about on that? It's nice. I don't want to destroy it. And yet, you've got commercialism that it's essential to have air service here. So we're trying to balance that back and forth. And of course, most of the stuff is coming from the beach.
Well, that's what I think one of the things that's been of interest to me in this whole thing is the airport is pretty much isolated from the beach, and any of the development that we do at the airport, including the air service, I don't think is really going to have any impact. It certainly wouldn't be a noise issue. These jets are much more quiet than half the piston poppers out there.
Yep.
And there's already a limit as to the amount of structure and residence that can be built on the barrier island. So, as far as commercial development and beyond, it's all moving west. I live down off of 43rd Avenue and 5th Street Southwest, and those neighborhoods are growing like crazy. So I just, I guess I'm sensitive to their concerns, but I don't think if they really stop and think about it, that it's going to be a big issue in terms of how it's going to impact the city.
We need
Right.
to sell that very well.
Right.
I mean, I understand the commissioner's comments because the character of Vero Beach has always been very important to the community, and the airport has tried to always follow that, and we do have a very general aviation-friendly airport. And when we start going to secure identification area, and different airport rescue and firefighting requirements, and perhaps a pilot can't transit the ramp just as easily as they used to do, that's going to be a little bit of a character shift. So, yeah, we have to weigh that with the economic impact opportunities that an airline would bring, convenience of the public that an airline would bring, and also our economic sustainability for the airport. As you know, we always want to retain self-sufficiency, and once the land is developed, that's it. The revenue kind of flattens out a little bit, and we're getting close to that point. So we're looking at the airline for the future as something to increase that economic sustainability. So there's pluses and minuses, as there always would be. The security issues these days are, they're pretty difficult to swallow sometimes, but that would come with the airline. So development concepts, we talked about a couple things here that are key, and that would be improving or enhancing Aviation Boulevard and improving or enhancing Airport Drive, the two key access areas to the central part of the airport. Whether or not an airline if we're successful in attracting and recruiting an airline, we would still want to do this for the development of those purple and green areas that we're showing that are currently undeveloped and have really huge potential for long-term development there. We're showing in our proposed development some passenger terminal needs and parking up at the top of the screen, and we're showing some non-aeronautical commercial development throughout there. You saw recently the grand opening of Oculina Bank, which is right there at the corner of these two roads, and that's a beautiful addition to the corner. And Walking Tree Brewery, which is on its way. They're funded and they're ready to begin and hopefully open around the beginning of next year. So things are starting to pick up. We're looking at what we call a complete street concept for Aviation Boulevard. A lot of times road planners will typically say, all right, we're 2 lanes, we got to go to 4 lanes. If we're 4 lanes, we've got to go to 6 lanes. And there's not a whole lot of thought as to how are we going to handle the pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic, What's going to happen if alternative energy vehicles start to be more and more common and less need for gas? What are we going to have to do to make a complete street concept work through these two roads? And we're using those ideas in the design of these roads. It's not quite it's like when you're building a building and you want to be LEED compliant. You want to be, if you meet a LEED certification for a building, that means that you're reaching the federal standard for environmentally safe buildings, or building that meets all the ADA requirements, all the environment or the electrical savings requirements, and being very useful for, and still be save money for electric and everything else. What we're doing here is sort of meeting LEED concepts for roads, but not actually being certified in any way. We just want to make sure that we try to keep all those ideas in play when we're doing the design. Maybe a 3-lane road throughout would be a little bit less costly. We would still be able to do sidewalks and bike paths and not go the full 4 lanes. And the reason is because there's less and less money available. It just all boils down to money, like everything else. If we go from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, or 2 lanes to 4 lanes, we're just putting a lot of asphalt down and spending a whole lot of money to do Aviation Boulevard, where maybe we have to rethink that a little bit, because the road is going to need something. And we're trying to now look at, in discussions with the MPO, and we are talking through the process there, how best can we redesign this road in order to reduce the cost but still meet the need for at least 10, 15 years. And those are what's going into the thought process here. When we say enhanced Aviation Boulevard, we used to say widened, because that was just the way we talked about it. Now we're thinking maybe there's a little bit better ways to look at this, look outside the box a little bit, and do some redesign to save money and yet meet the requirements of what we're looking for. Maybe timing on the lights, for example. When we get the signal lights up there, with a little bit of effort there, we could improve and extend the life of the road without going to 4 or 6 lanes. So those are things we're talking about, and that's why all of that and those comments have all been placed into this graphic.
Eric, on that note, I'd like to hear from everybody about what everybody thinks about Aviation Boulevard, because we had a meeting with the planning departments of the county and the city that I happen to be involved in, and I kind of changed from wanting to really make it a wide boulevard to doing what Eric was talking about, the enhanced areas, like at Airport Drive. There's going to be a signal that's going to have turning lanes. We already have that situation at 27th Avenue, and there's certainly a right-hand turn lane that's very long that Piper employees use to access their facility. The county is interested in, anytime as soon as possible, putting in a turning lane to go onto the street that goes into the county building.
20th, yeah.
20th is, they still call it that. And then we know 43rd Avenue is getting widened at the intersection of State Road 60, and that's what, $43 million or something to widen. Yeah, didn't he say something ridiculous?
I don't know what the dollar cost
it was a
is.
huge amount. And then that's, I would presume, is coming up all the way to Aviation Boulevard. So that, again, will have another better turning access and everything. And then in keeping with the idea of creating this airport commercial village, maybe the emphasis, as Eric said, should be on sidewalks, bike paths, making it a walkable village that would entice people to come to it. We've already got historic Dodgertown. Let's say we do get airline service, we do get a hotel, we get some restaurants, make it more of a walkable village concept, and not go to making this a humongous boulevard like we've talked about that would be hard to cross as a pedestrian or on a bike.
Slow the traffic down a little bit. Some traffic calming measures might be used in order to encourage people to use the businesses
and
that are
light
there.
so people can get in and out. I understand, it's hard to get out of Airport Drive actually and make a left-hand turn. Yeah. Because you got all kinds of things going on there. But what's the feeling? Because I had a pretty big turnaround after we did that planning meeting. All of a sudden, I was like, "Wait a minute! We're trying to make this village,
Right.
And enhance this village concept. Maybe we need more trees and sidewalks and bike paths, and make the turning lanes accessible, but not do this big thoroughfare that's just going to rush people through." Any comments on that?
My comment would be we need to go back and find out where are we in the concept of coming off the Barber Bridge going all the way to I-95. That's not been settled. And this is right in the middle of it all. I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed either before or simultaneously, because if I'm not mistaken, they want a 4-lane just so that they can get another twin pair, so to speak.
Yeah, and that was my initial idea too, but I don't think they'll ever come directly off the Barber Bridge. There's all kinds of environmental problems in the middle there. You'd be going right through the middle of Vero Beach Country Club. Right. I don't think those people would like that.
There's going to probably be another 4-lane to I-95 somewhere along there.
And this was supposed to be it, basically.
I like what you're saying, but I still think we got to think about that 4-lane. Where is that going to be coming from?
Yeah. Well, and I think leaving the option to do it, but at this point, kind of try and push our village idea. Because what was the load on this highway? It was like 10,000 cars a day.
It dropped. I can't give you the number, but I know that during the recession.
It wasn't as high as what I thought it was going to be. And I always thought of it for the benefit of the city to reduce the traffic on the twin pairs so they could calm the downtown area, which is now 4 lanes in one direction and 3 in the other. And it's just a racetrack through downtown. But I know there's not money for this right now. They keep saying that. Originally, I said, let's try and get it in our master plan and prove to the FAA that this is a core requirement for us developing our commercial village. But maybe the sidewalks and everything would do us better.
Maybe that would push it.
Right. And then we could still have we're going to have a stoplight. We're going to have turning lanes. We're going to have, a bigger intersection down here. Let the county go ahead and fund their access into the to the county building, because they're ready to move on that right now, and they keep holding up carrots to the city, and in exchange for, and it's always something that's not really palatable for the city. So why not just encourage them to do what they want to do and try and get the sidewalks and bike lanes? Yeah.
I have mixed emotions about this. Looking at widening that road isn't the purpose of getting people from point A to point B on that road. And 4 lanes would be a big, big, big help. On the other hand, when we come back and we talk about the enhanced boulevard concept, obviously then you're right. You don't want people flying right past there. I had 3 companies that were on a state highway. It was Highway 7724 in Pennsylvania, and it was a 3-lane road. It had your east, your west traverse, and your center turning lane for left or right turns to go into that. And that was the first time I thought about that, was when Eric mentioned that, talking about, tons of money, getting more and more right-of-ways from the left and the right of the road. A 3-lane seems to be the thing to do. And again, we're looking down the road 10, 20 years or so. And again, what do we talk about? The main thoroughfares east and west are what? 20th Street, Route 60? Oslo Road is one that's been widened as far out to 66th Avenue now, mostly 58th Avenue. I live at the corner of right by 5th Street Southwest and 43rd Avenue myself, and I see that area growing. And I'm pretty sure we all realize it's either going to be go west, young man, because how much further can you go? Well, obviously, the east is somewhat limited with the ocean. And, of course, as you go north and south, you start going into some other developments. So I, at this point, really like that concept. And again, knowing down the future, we will need bike paths. We will need a sidewalk on north or south side of either property. So that would be my concept. That would be my vote right now, that I think a 3-lane, one east, one west, and one center turning lane would solve perhaps some of the discussions we're having. Thank you.
As our chair has stated earlier about the cost of 43rd improvements and widening, tremendous amount of that is for property acquisition, which will be faced with the same situation if it is decided to go this mega highway, along with the slowing down of traffic, and even adding a bike path, sidewalks, going to take a lot of room through certain areas that is not now available.
How much of that is? A lot of it's airport property. The only problem we had was up at the corner by Dodgertown, and they said they had that worked out. Widening that whole section, though, would require moving all those power lines, and they're big transmission lines. They're not just little poles here and there. But again, I think, like Eric says, this isn't going to happen in the next 5 years, maybe not even 10 years. But I think my goal with the whole idea is to protect the airport in terms of being able to make its revenue, and to set up a framework that we can then encourage development in this area. Because if we don't have a plan, nobody's going to come in here and make an investment in the property. So I think that if we can get it widened so that it's accessible and usable and workable, knowing that it may go to 4 lanes at some point or a boulevard or whatever, but at least have this time frame and this framework set up so that we can lease these properties and get some, get the kind of development in here that we're shooting for, so that it's not just this haphazard stuff that we've had in the past.
Right, and I think that this airport commercial village concept, and we've been talking about this for months, we're always focused pretty much on the same type of idea, that we want to plan for the future. If we don't begin now, we won't, it'll be the same thing it was 5-10 years from now. It'll still look the same, and we'll have different things popping in. We just first come, first serve. And we've never really taken a look at the whole area and really planned for what we'd like to see. And we got to start somewhere. Obviously, there's some things we're going to have to finish out the term of their leases that are already there, and a lot of those may even want to be repeated depending on how the plan comes out. But it all fits. The airport commercial village fits, and I might say that it even fits in with a small airline service. Remember, I know there might be folks that are saying it's going to change the whole character of the airport, but that may not happen if it's a small airline service that just provides services and fits the needs of the commercial village and the needs of the community, that goes to where they need to go. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. It could all fit. It's really just finding the right fit on the airline service. We're never going to be in Orlando Sanford or Orlando International or Fort Lauderdale Hollywood. It's just never going to happen. But we could provide convenient scheduled service and still meet the same village concept that we're looking for. And the airline that we work with, or airlines, if we get maybe 2, would be talking to them all through this and working out their lease agreements so that they know, and we would be working with airlines that would be comfortable with that same type of concept and not looking for a huge industrial type service. So I don't know. I think it's doable. It's a goal. It's a pretty high standard to set. There's no doubt about it. But you've got to set your goals high. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, and again, I think we're at the crossroads now with this opportunity, with this master plan, to ensure that the airport does develop the way we want it to develop. Because in the past, like you said, it's just been somebody comes in and goes, oh, I like that piece of property, I'm going to build a factory there. Well, you're never going to get a hotel next to it then. So, I think this is our opportunity to determine how the airport grows and what direction it takes in terms of development. Because again, like we've said in the past, this is 25% of the land area of the City of Vero Beach, and it's also the last developable land, basically, in the entire city. So I want to make sure we get this right, and that it's an asset to the city, an asset to the community in general, because as we said, this doesn't just affect the city, it butts up against the county, and it affects the people in the county. So this is a community activity here, and I think we need to get it right. We've got now historic Dodger Town, so that designation has happened. I'm sure they would like to capitalize on more commercial retail involvement in here. I'm not sure why. Eric, do you have any knowledge about why we haven't had somebody come and say, hey, we want to put a hotel here? Because we've got lots of people that come to the training facility and they've got to stay out at I-95 or over by Grand Harbor.
Yeah, I would, well, for the last 5-6 years, it's pretty much just been the recession. But before that, and probably still now, is the lease issue. You know, to put a significant development like that with a 30-year term is just not palatable when you can buy land a lot cheaper. In fact, right next to where we're on this graphic where you see Dragonfly Boatworks, right underneath that square is privately owned property right across from airport property that you can buy. So if it were going to happen right now, a hotel would probably look at something in that vicinity where they could actually own the property forever, you know. But there is some potential for lease negotiations that would extend the term of the lease. And you know, if the economy continues like it is, I'm sure, because right now we don't have, maybe 10 hotels or so, and very few room nights available in Indian River County. That's a need for this area. We'd love to supply a location, and I think we'll get there with some term negotiation and some continued economic improvement. We should still see it, even with the lease property. But like I said, we still have the property for sale, too, that hopefully will happen. One way or the other, everybody would like to see that happen in this vicinity, a small hotel. I think it would work. Some folks have even talked about a fly-in hotel, which is not where you'd fly right up to the hotel per se, but it'd be within walking distance, and that's why the pedestrian and the bike paths would work, because you'd be nearby to a hangar. So you might even have someone that would fly in and park their airplane somewhere and use the facility right in that facility. And then we get back to the convention center that we've talked about before, too, working with historic Dodger Town to maybe develop a convention center that would be not a huge one, but that would meet this airport commercial village concept and be economically feasible for a developer to stick their neck out and get a loan and make it happen. We want to talk, that's for sure, and we're trying to put that image out, and that gets into a lot of other things we're going to talk about too. Branding, name change for the airport, those kind of things are coming.
Well, Eric, what do you want the Airport Commission to do right now in regards to addressing enhanced Aviation Boulevard?
I just want you to know about it, and when you're talking to people in the community, which is what you all do a lot, just keep these things in mind. And you've got a printout of this because we sent the whole thing. You can even carry it with you. I just want to make sure at this point that you're on track and you think this is the right direction to go. There's no vote needed at this point, just so you know. And there's more presentation to go. We still have to finish the rest. We'll get into the airlines. But these things need to be talked about. And the staff, our only goal in talking to the Airport Commission and the Council is to make sure that we are going in the right direction and that we're not off in some tangent. But we present ideas that come up through all these meetings we've been having. And like I said, and filter it down to what we think are the big ideas that can really work. But if we're wrong, we want to hear about it too.
Well, does everyone still on board with the idea of the airport commercial village?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I know one of the things that came up at that planning meeting too was how can we go about maybe making it have a feel to it? Do we want it to look like old Florida? Do we want it to be Key West? I just kind of get tired of the strip mall du jour, because you can go, oh, that was built in 1965. Oh, that was built in 1978, because that was the style of the day. And so we were informed that could be done through planning, and development and in the like the leasing terms and stuff, that there would be landscaping requirements and potentially some sort of a look, so it's just not metal buildings and that look like
Lena Bank. They did
like-
such a nice job.
Beautiful.
they did a great job. And
We could
so
model it similar.
exactly, and that's the kind of thing that I would like to see, so that when people will want to come here as stores develop and restaurants develop, and they'll want to walk around, and it will become a destination that will enhance the airport. So, okay, everybody.
I just wanted to ask the board, I mean the commission, are we all on board in endorsing a 3-lane versus a 4-lane with a center lane turn? That would be so helpful if we could all
And even
come
if
to
it's just-
some type of an agreement, because it would happen much quicker. You're not going to get the feedback, the negative feedback from the beach of another 4-lane going all the way out there, and we may get quite a bit of support actually.
Or the county, because the county's
It
the
would
one
nice-
that always puts the
I know
kibosh
we
on
don't
everything.
we don't have a lot of people, but wouldn't it be nice if we could say the 4 of us would agree on a 3-lane versus a 4-lane? Would that help you?
That's sure.
The NPO meetings?
Believe me, it's helpful to have the Airport Commission support, and it's very helpful. A few of you have been to the meetings, the MPO and TAC meetings. That helps significantly to be there and show support when I'm speaking to those boards and promoting these ideas. And that's another reason I want to make sure now that I'm, promoting the right thing. So when you all come to these meetings, it's a big help. And I think it's something that the staff realizes these are good ideas, and we're all discussing them. And I don't know as much about roads as the other people on the TAC. We have Public Works here. We have the road engineers from the city and the county, and they have a bigger picture they're looking at. So, but as long as we're saying, hey, this is what we think, and we're putting our 2 cents in, hopefully a good plan will come out of this, and I think it'll
What
be positive.
exactly are they going to do at Airport Drive and Aviation Boulevard?
Airport Drive. Well, the Airport Drive, improved Airport Drive highlight there goes from the terminal all the way down to the bridge and through the bridge and replaces the bridge down there on the canal. That project is already under design. We're at about 98% complete of the design. In fact, one of my staff members is at a meeting right now with the engineer and flight safety on a particular issue on that plan. So that's going to happen with bike paths and sidewalks, and it'll be a complete street type of idea already with landscaping that's mostly there. We're going to work around the trees. We're not going to take the trees out. Sidewalk will work around the trees. It's going to be a beautiful looking road. That's underway. That'll probably start construction, probably advertise within a month or two and start construction probably toward the end of the year or next year. It's hard to do it during season. That's the time you don't want to do construction. So we're going to try to maybe time it so we're outside that, which could delay the start. But that's what we're trying to do and that intersection, as you mentioned, will be part of that plan with a new light. Once we go out to bid on that, we'll determine, we have some alternate bids on there to see what we can do, further improvements to the road. If the bids come in low enough, we'll do more than even we had hoped. But we're going to do the minimum is going to be the sidewalks and the bike paths and hopefully a light right at that intersection. So at the end, we'll have 43rd with a new light, this intersection with a new light, 20th, or the entrance to the county building with a new light, and then there will ultimately be improvements at the US 1 intersection. And all
So
that.
we're almost on our way to being there already.
Piecemeal.
Because again, to go into Piper, they've already got a really long right turn lane.
Yeah.
So that's already almost like it's 3 lanes. So
Correct.
at least people can get off the road to make the right turn.
And that's the goal, is to reduce the cost where it's a feasible plan to move ahead.
Right.
Otherwise,
So
it's so much you just can't do
I
it.
think we're really close with a lot of these projects already. And then, like I said, push for things like the sidewalks to enhance our village so that it'll encourage development to come in and rent the property.
It would pretty much just conform to what you've already designed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Go ahead. Would we, by talking about this, I'm not sure of the way it's handled, but I know that it's been in the plans for a long time to enhance Aviation Boulevard. It was then taken back out, and I understand it's been revisited now, a certain part of it. If we decide as a board to recommend the 3-lane sidewalk, does it then go to the bottom of the barrel again for?
No.
Okay.
I would just recommend that we consider that the
That's
that the
I just wanted
MPO
to be
consider
sure.
that as an
Right,
option.
good plan, so let's go back to.
I think they would celebrate it.
I haven't had any negative so far. It's just, planners they're used to traditional road planning, and so when you start talking complete streets, they got to Google it and find out what that is first, and then start looking at those things. And you can do that also, and you'll read interesting. It's just another title for something that, hey, we got only so much money. We still have to do the road. How are we going to do this? And that's what we're trying to do.
Can I make a motion on the agreement that we just discussed? Is that proper?
It's not necessary, but it's fine if you'd like to vote on
Well, I'd like to make a motion that the Airport Commission Board support a plan to expand Aviation Boulevard utilizing a 3-lane concept with bike path and sidewalk, as opposed to the previously considered 4-lane expansion and widening of Aviation Boulevard.
And if I could ask you to include the term complete street in that motion, because that brings it all together.
sorry.
The complete street concept, rather than just 3-laning, to narrow it down to just that, just to talk about the complete street concept is what we're trying to promote.
That this would also include complete street concepts that would be involved in this kind of a widening project.
Do I have a second?
Before we go for a second, would you mind, Dick, if I added that, and we would request that Eric submit this to the MPO?
Right ahead, Woody.
Sir?
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, sir.
I would like to add that we would like Eric to submit this to the MPO as soon as possible to be included in their planning.
Good idea.
With that, I'll second the motion.
All right, so my understanding of the motion is then that the Airport Commission supports the complete street concept for enhancing Aviation Boulevard, and that staff should present that to the MPO.
Yeah, I think I think that's what everybody's
Yeah,
leaning
I
towards,
agree.
just so they know that the Airport Commission is supporting it in terms of our business plan and land use plan that we're working on, that we would support that. Because I know it's back in the MPO again, right? It was out for a number of years. It wasn't even, it had been pulled and was
that
gone.
answers parts.
Right.
Where it stands right now, it's in the long-range transportation plan
Right.
that the MPO has to present to the state. It's, however, not in the 5-year capital development plan. And we'd like to get it from the long range into the 5-year. That's the kind of the next goal. And if that's doable, all has to do with money, all has to do with other priorities. But that's where the airport staff anyway, and I believe the city staff as well, in support of this, with the public works and with the planning department, is trying to initiate and try to get this moving. And this is maybe a middle of the road option that we can present that would get everybody happy, I hope.
Well, and then again, the Airport Drive Aviation Boulevard project is already in the works. And if you remember, the county in its bid to try and entice the airport to accept the GO line facility said, oh, well, we'll right away do the access into 20th Avenue in the county building. So I don't even think that's going to be an issue. They'll probably jump at the chance to go ahead and do that, I would presume. And the rest of it is almost done.
Yeah, it's just conforming to the design.
Right. And then pushing for any kind of bike path, sidewalk, whatever we can do to enhance our whole commercial village. Okay, does anybody have any, can we take a vote on that? Just, we don't need a formal vote, do we? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for presenting that then, too. That'll just be maybe little extra push for them to understand that the airport's in favor of it, or that at least the commission.
I'll continue then. And to the airport side, the aviation developments that we're proposing, and I just highlighted a couple there because those primarily pertain to airline service and are not necessary for for meeting our existing or 20-year capacity needs. But in meeting with airlines already, we've found that the runway width could be an issue on some of the the aircraft that they might be flying. If we stick to regional jets, we're good, just like the way we are. 50 to 100 seat jets, we're fine, or small turboprops. But if we get into a little larger aircraft, A320, MD-80, something like that, 50 feet is typically or 150 feet width is what they like to see. Sometimes it's just a company policy. May not be an FAA requirement or even an aircraft requirement, but it's an airline policy that they want to see that. So we're putting that in there to consider. It would not impact noise, would not impact number of operations, but it would impact the type of aircraft that we could handle. If we just had 2 flights a day on A319, something like that, Airbus, that would not, it's a very quiet aircraft, and it's not going to be a number of operations to worry anybody, a couple jets a day. I don't think that would be anything major, but we want to make sure that's out there, that people know that there may be a need for that. We would propose it, and it's probably outside the 5-year period. It's down the road.
Well, and another thing, to your concern, Skip, that's another way we have of controlling this.
Bingo.
If we don't want to widen the runway, then we don't get the bigger jets.
Nope.
So, that would kind of make us a little regional center as opposed to a major hub of some sort.
Right.
But that's another way that we can. I think, though, before we add the extra taxiways and stuff, because we had talked about that we should at least leave room for it, because who knows what's going to happen 30 years from now. Exactly. And if we build a taxiway and it's too close, and then we've got to widen the runway at some point, now we're stuck with doing 2 things.
So we're planning for that, and you can see the 2 little windows down the bottom right there shows that concept. So the ultimate goal is to have parallel taxiways on the main runway for safety, not so much capacity, and for improved flow. The air traffic control tower is a huge proponent of that. They would love to see that happen. But it takes a lot of money to do that. And this project, as well as perhaps the taxiway extension, might require an environmental assessment that would delay the project further, because anytime you do something like that, it might be a project large enough that would require further review by another agency. But it's still doable. We still got to put it in the plan. If we just end up with regional jets for 20 years and that's it, we really would probably push that off. But that would be needed if the economy keeps booming and fuel prices stay low and airlines look to meet the niche that is the Treasure Coast. There's definitely a need in this area. We know people are flying from this area, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. If there's no other questions on this part here.
Yeah, just one. Just to clarify for me, Eric, when you do, or when we the proposal you've got here for this parallel on the north side of 1230 is going to accommodate a 50-foot widening of the main runway?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on then. Here comes the airline information. We looked at the data around this catchment area. I wouldn't pay so much attention to the red circle as to the green area. That's the catchment area, 3 counties. And I'm becoming more and more knowledgeable about how these studies work with airlines, but nowhere am I near an expert. So I'm going to do my best, not being a Sixel consultant myself. Sixel is a sub-consultant, SIXEL. It's a sub-consultant for Recondo and Associates that did our master plan, or is doing our master plan. And they seem to have really good respect with the airlines. In the few meetings I've had, they listen intently when the Sixel consultant is talking, mainly because the data that Sixel uses is the same data the airlines have. They just present it in a little bit different fashion sometimes. But the data that they've put together indicate these are the top markets, domestic and international, for our catchment area. And remember, a lot of our traffic is not international, but the little that is from those major markets. The domestic is what we're interested in, and those top 2 really are what we're focused on for the most part. It shows some of the numbers that they came up with, and they got this from ticket data, actual airline ticket data of all airlines, not just the legacies, but the low-cost carriers as well, that fly from the airports in the vicinity of Vero, Orlando, Melbourne, West Palm Beach primarily. And this shows the number of people that are coming into or leaving from the area. It seems like a really huge number, but you got to remember some of these are repeats too. Some come 2 or 3 days, sometimes once a week they're flying, for business or whatever, and it adds up. And these are actual ticket data. They're flying all over the place. And I was going to put in a discussion in there, but I don't think we need to go there. I probably have to switch to the other presentation now if we want to talk more. But what I did was I left this pretty basic on this presentation, but I have the executive summary of the true market study on the other slides if you want to go through in more detail. So you want to do that? Okay. Well, let me just give you the basics then. The bottom line is we've got 2,800 people per day each way flying from our catchment area, and that number is. We've reviewed it with the county because the county has planners and the county has data, and we've been meeting with the county, and they looked at our data. They've verified that it is reasonable. Maybe a little bit on the optimistic side, but nevertheless reasonable at 2,800 people per day each way from our catchment area. So what we are looking at, and most of that, as we saw, is going to the northeast area. What we're looking at is talking to different airlines and trying to find the right fit with the right aircraft for the right airport. And we think we're going to do that. We'll be talking, we've already talked with some airlines, but over the summer we're going to be considering some teleconferences, probably not a whole lot of travel until about October timeframe, in which we're going to more than likely put together a small team and present to several airlines. And we'll see where we can go with that. There are some possibilities. We've been talking about flights direct to the New York area, not to Orlando, not to Atlanta, but direct to a smaller airport in the New York vicinity, and probably using a decent size, maybe 100-seat regional jet. If we got 10%, if only 10% of the 2,800 people per day would fly the airline going to that area. And remember, about 50% of those people are going to that area. If we just got 10%, we would fill 2 jets per day of 100 seats. So if we could just get 1 per day, now we're at only needing a 5% of the number that's already going. And some of this data was from June 2014 back a year. To 20, so the recession really was, it really weren't really a big pickup at that point. We weren't really, now it's even a little bit better. We just hope that'll continue. We think there's a potential there. There's also a concept of developing market share. And by that I mean that an airline might want to come into the area to increase the market share that they're not getting, from this area and compete with another airline in the vicinity. Perhaps American would want to come in and compete with Delta, that's now flying out of Melbourne, and be able to do that successfully by flying to Charlotte. Charlotte is a good hub for American and will be settled after the merger with US Air by October. So again, these meetings in October will be very important because we're going to be talking about how this could be a potential new service. Remember, we had American Eagle flying here in the late 90s. Hopefully that'll be a plus to them, not a negative. Obviously, they didn't work when they were here before, but they went down to Miami. Flying from here to Charlotte, their new hub, since they've merged with US Air, might be a potential. We're looking at this and many others, and I just want to let everybody know that we're not sure where it's going to end up, but the right fit is what we're looking for. And I'm not an airline expert, and the airline industry is very dynamic. And fuel prices change they could change a lot or a little. There's a pilot shortage, so they may be able to have an aircraft but not a pilot to fly it. Or another city may have just as good of a marketing plan as we do and maybe a little better and have 400,000 people in their vicinity. And they may say, Vero looks really good, but we're going to try this other one this year first. A lot of little things could happen along the way, so I don't know how successful, but we think we have a good story to tell. We're going to be putting together over the next several months marketing package. We're going to be looking at rebranding for the airport, and we're going to be looking at a short video to present in October, which will be probably 30 seconds to a minute. It's going to be very short, to the point, and when we sit down with the airline staff, we hope to impress them. And then at that point, we keep moving from there. There's a lot to be done, and it's going to cost a little money, but the good news is the City Council has already accepted a supplemental joint participation agreement of state money to fund 80% of about $120,000, $140,000 cost to do what I'm talking about. And once we can get that moving, we think we'll have it all done and spent by the time we go to October. And a lot of that will come back to you in August. Before the October meetings, you'll get to see where we are. Hopefully we'll have a video for you to show. And you'll see where we're going. And in fact, maybe even before that, I'd like to have Barb come over and take a look at it, because we'll have a draft mode at some point and make sure that, again, we're going on the right track. But there's a lot of things happening, and all I'm hoping is the economy keeps rolling. If that doesn't happen, or if we have some issues or some major catastrophe stroke, then I guess a lot of this could change. But that's the same with all airports, not just us.
Eric, would this be a good time for me to make a motion for the city to change the name of the airport from Vero Beach Municipal Airport to Vero Beach Regional Airport?
Oh, we've talked about that, and I've kicked it around a little bit with various people. No negatives from that name so far. I haven't had one person say that's ridiculous or that's not a good idea. So, yeah, I think that would be great. I think we're going to go through all that in the rebranding process. But
Easier
a lot
for
of
funding, for sure.
What's that?
It'll be easier for funding if we have a different name as well.
But it needs to go to VBR.
It'll still say,
VRB.
yeah, nothing will change as far as the three-letter identifier.
Vero Beach Regional.
That help us.
VRB is going to confuse them. What's that?
They're just
What's
not
up with
going to
that?
get it at all.
So
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for the commission that to change the name of this airport from Vero Beach Municipal Airport to Vero Beach Regional Airport.
I second that motion.
Any discussion?
Any other discussion?
One discussion on that. And I think in a February meeting, the gentleman, I've forgotten his name, was here from Fort Pierce, who were actively discussing with airlines or making a proposal. Do you know where that has set in the last 3 months?
I don't know. I know that they're ahead of us on a marketing plan. I can tell you that they're in a business plan, probably about a month or two. So they've already changed the name. But
What did they change it to? What, St. Lucie?
Treasure Coast Regional Airport.
Treasure Coast.
I'm sorry, Treasure Coast International Airport,
Okay.
because they have customs and we're talking at all the time. And the manager and I would like to work together rather than be too competitive, because we're so close. One gets major airline service, then the other one doesn't. But we could probably both work together, and one could get domestic and one could have Caribbean type flights and work out really well for both. So but a lot of it depends on what the airlines want to do.
Yeah, I think he was discussing that. Didn't they have something going to the Caribbean before the housing crash?
Yeah.
And then also one of the things I thought was interesting that he said is he deals directly with their county commission. He doesn't have an airport commission.
Right.
And he thought that was not a plus for him because there's no extra behind the scenes work going on. And then he's got to directly go and get the attention of the county commission all the time to try and get them to move on stuff. So hopefully we've got a little more of a jump on it. Plus, I know he said also that their airport is not self-sustaining. So anything they do is probably going to cost them a lot of money, whereas we're hopefully in a planning area that we would be able to support whatever we need to do without the city having to use tax revenues.
In general, I think we're better positioned, and we might even be better located geographically. I mean, I've always thought probably Vero would stay GA and St. Lucie County would be the future. But the way it's looking with our numbers, they may be even a little bit too close to Palm Beach, at least the southern part of the county, where they would more than likely go down there than fly out of St. Lucie, whereas Vero is far enough away that the folks from north of St. Lucie and also in our area would more than likely come up here. Plus, we have better facilities. We have Part 139. We have a surplus that we can use to help match grants. So, but I mean, it's competitive, and we're competing with all airports in that category.
Did I remember? I'm sorry. Did I remember correctly that they were actively seeking only domestic?
No, only international.
I don't know if they're only anything right now, and
No, Fort Pierce.
yeah, I don't know.
I thought that they had the facility. They have the customs facility.
Right.
Right.
But I thought I remembered that. I'm sorry.
That they were going domestic only,
Yeah.
or I hadn't heard that. Maybe they. Well, who knows? Maybe we shouldn't give away too much of our secrets. I think it's competitive, and we're doing the best we can, and I think we'll be pretty successful going down the road. Let's see how it goes.
So we'll give them the redacted version
Yeah.
of this meeting.
That's right. Yeah, too late.
I think who's responsible for that?
She doesn't redact.
Who's going to black that out?
So this is the.
I have a motion in
Oh,
a second, but
Yeah. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No,
Okay.
I was late. Aye.
No opposition, Jerry.
Aye,
No
aye, aye.
opposition.
And I'll tell you the next steps on that. I'll tell you the next steps on that too for changing the name. I've talked to the FAA about it. We'll have to change our Form 5010, which is just the FAA's version of what we're doing at the airport in one sheet of paper. All the runway lengths and the radio frequencies and everything will be on there, but we have to also change that, and we have to go through the FAA form that they have to submit, which then they go through air traffic, because there'll be things that change with approach plates and things like that have to be coordinated, and all that happens. But there apparently is not much cost involved, if any. If anything, it's just staff time that the FAA is already paying people to do.
And how many years will that take?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't give me the time frame. It shouldn't be too bad. I don't think it should be too bad. And I wouldn't say it'll happen anytime. We're going to go through this whole branding concept and do it all at once, rather than So
And Eric, I take it that's the name that you guys were looking for as
yes.
well? Okay.
It just fits. I don't want to change our name to something crazy. People know where Vero Beach is. People
Right.
in Europe know where Vero Beach is. The name is important to have there. So, and then regional is just common sense. It really does serve more than just the city. Obviously, it serves the region, our catchment area.
You got to change your ads now.
We will have to change a few things. Okay, and then these are the things we talked about. And I think I have your concurrence on the bullet 1. Bullet 2 is the commercial village idea for planning purposes. And then airline service, community support. And the budgetary side, I will, obviously, if you all would like to be involved with the budgetary process, we will be going to City Council and the City Manager in the next couple months. And it'd be good to just be at the public meeting at the City Council just for support on that as well. We're going to be doing things in addition to the marketing plan and the branding changes, the video. We're going to be looking at a reorganizational concept, and we're actually going to, with any luck, we have the money to do. We have the concurrence of City Council to proceed with a consultant to come in from the outside to take a look at our organization and review changes that may need to happen with an airline coming in, give us some recommendations. That's coming up fairly quickly, and we'll be presenting that to you all as well. We may not have that in time for the budget, however. So what I'm going to be doing is putting some ideas in there before the city manager on how to handle that, and hopefully we'll be prepared then when the next fiscal year comes around with that plan and how we need to possibly reorganize. We won't actually do it, though. We'll just need a budget to do it. We won't do it until we actually see an airline moving in, and what staff that's going to require to handle that is what we're looking at. So, should all be handled. So I have concurrence on those items. The next step, or what I've been talking about already, final City Council approval to all of this will happen in September. At least that's the goal. Some of that has to do with FAA approval, and that could delay that a little bit. But we hope to get fairly quick FAA approval. Like I said, they primarily just approved the airport layout plan, and we don't have anything tremendous in there. And that's it.
That's it? Any other comments about the master plan? All righty. Any old business anybody wants to bring up? Chairman's matters? No. Eric, do you have anything else?
Just one thing. I'm not going to go over all the capital projects and all that, but I did want to let you know that we are, the city is preparing a response to the FAA's response to our land use inspection response. They remember back in 2011 they did the land use inspection. We responded in November of that same year, and then we received a response to them January of this year from the FAA January of this year. So it took 3 years to get a response from the FAA, and they sent us a letter asking us to change a couple things. Really pretty supportive overall with the way that the city and the airport are working together. There's just a couple things we need to tweak in showing how we document our costs and things with the police department and the water and sewer and things like that. We're working on it. We don't have a deadline on when to respond, but we said, well, it took them 3 years, but we're gonna try to get that done. Probably, I would guess, by the end of the summer. And you all may be involved with that in the August meeting too, just to see what our response will be. I think we'll work out something. The airport district office, the FAA office in Orlando has been very supportive in trying to work with us and resolving the few issues that we have. So I don't see it as a huge issue. If for some reason we cannot resolve, then it becomes a big issue. But I think we'll be able to resolve. It becomes a big issue only because if we get a letter of investigation, ultimately because we can't find a resolution, a letter of investigation, once issued, freezes discretionary funds. That's bad. We cannot operate our capital improvement program and do the projects needed with no discretionary funds from the FAA. Obviously, we would have to lean a lot more heavily on the state, which we're doing more and more anyway these days. But that could be significant. So we're going to ensure that does not happen by working together. And the FAA ADO, Airport District Office, has been very supportive. So we anticipate a good result from that.
And what's do we have our August date already?
We haven't set a date.
Okay.
I don't have my calendar either.
Yes, okay.
Normally, we set a date and then there's a conflict, so.
I had August 6th as a tentative date written down here, but I don't know if we've ever, or if you want to, how you want to do that. It's up to you. Somehow we must have talked about August 6th because I scribbled it down there.
Yeah, is that what they want?
Maybe, somewhere. That might be a little early, though. I mean, if we could.
Was it because there was a scheduled meeting before that we needed to discuss with the MPO or something, maybe?
I don't think so. I think it had more to do with everyone's schedule and what they could do vacation-wise. But if you want to just wait
Earlier
until
August is better for me.
Not leaving, I'll be right back.
How about if we just let's see how it goes on all the studies and master plan. We'll let you know because I want to have something to present to you anyway. I hate to schedule it and then come back and change it.
And you said there might be a couple leases and other things coming up.
There might be, yeah.
Yeah,
there's even the possibility of a special call in June or early July. So stand by for that. If we can at least get a quorum for that, there is one lease, long-term lease that we're working on right now for a pretty good sized development. And if that comes to fruition and we have a negotiated lease, then I'd like to have you all review that because it's long-term development at the airport. It'd be good to look at. And I might not want to wait till August if we could possibly do a special call at some point.
Okay. Yeah, just let us know.
Okay.
And I understand you gentlemen have a presentation? No. Oh, that's what Skip was. That's what Skip was saying, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." No, so we don't.
They're just
okay.
visiting.
Okay. So I guess we're all set then. Any other comments?
Did we establish August the 6th as a
No.
No.
That we'll just kind of,
August question mark?
yeah.
August question mark.
July
yes, sir.
possible.
Yes.
Yes.
Sometime in the future, maybe.
It seems to work better than schedule because every time we schedule them,
We gotta change it.
Reschedule the schedule.
But again, I'd like to thank the commission members for all your good work and input. It's great because it's nice to have all of you engaged and reviewing all this stuff and in participating in the discussion. So I really appreciate that.
Me too.
All right. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you very much.